Hey, we're live. I assume we're doing the intro again, George, because you've been doing it and rocking it out.
Do it. All right. Welcome to the virtual brown bag. This is our weekly meeting. Anyone's free to join, where developers get to talk about stuff. Just to restate all exactly how we're doing this. There's two links. There is a viewer link, which is meeting.virtualbrownbag.com. That's publicly available. And there's a participant link, which is available on our Slack. Anybody is welcome to join in and participate. We just ask that you go into the Slack, through the link in the Slack to do so. The link to join the Slack is also on our website, virtualbrownbag.com. Just a reminder that these meetings are automatically streamed onto YouTube and kept there, so don't share any code that's going to get you in trouble or anything like that. Um, that's it. So, yeah, how about it, everyone?
Hey, yeah, here, actually, let me turn on the camera so you can see that.
Yeah.
Hey, I
So,
am a person.
yeah,
Hi.
hey. So JB was running the Space City JS.
Yeah, so that was this weekend. So it was me, Matt Keys, and Alan Lee. Uh, with Space City, this is our second conference that we had in Houston. Was a big deal. It was awesome. I did a terrible job promoting it because I just got so busy on some other stuff. I'll try doing a little bit better. But yeah, it was cool. Great speakers. It's a single track conference. And I'll try sharing a bunch of stuff. But our theme for this year was open source. So we had two in particular talks that directly targeted that. Most of the other stuff was generally around other things related to it. Kent C. Dodds did a presentation on basically how to um, be active and how to manage projects because he has 57 libraries he maintains. So the dude knows how to do open source. So I'm going to give like brief highlights and some notes on stuff, but like one of the organizers, I'm running around the entire time, so we record it so that I can actually enjoy the conference too. um, on Saturday perspective, my Fitbit, I was at 28,000 steps. Like I'm running around crazy the entire time. So I just went home and I just collapsed on the couch when they're like, "Hey, you want to go out afterwards?" Like, no, I want to like live. um, so yeah, let me pull up some of the speaker stuff, and then I'll just as a refresher and highlight some of the stuff that was done. So it's done at this real. We have it at this really sweet space called Texas Medical Innovation, but that's Texas Medical Center Innovation Center. I don't know why they do that because it's TMCX, but when you try pronouncing it all out, you sound like an idiot because you're like center. Um, they offer the space to us for free, but we like have to. We make sure that they're treated really nice, and we do clean up everything afterwards and stuff because the space is just awesome. Um, let's see. We had a good mix of people, good mix of speakers. Let's see if I can get this schedule here. Here we go. As a reminder. Yeah. So Evan and I that was one talk I got to see the most to Evan Morikawa. He works for they built an email client out of React and Electron. It's Nifelis. I need to look up the exact spelling and pronunciation. Um, but he was a really cool dude, and it was cool getting to know him. Hopefully, I can get him to come over to Brown Bag because he seems like he's the type of guy who'd love to do that type of thing. In particular, for their business, it matches perfectly for their stuff. So they were looking to build an email desktop client. And in particular, one of the things they wanted to make sure is done is cross-platform because they felt like there were some really cool email clients for Mac, but like there wasn't that sort of fresh UX email client for the Windows environment. So they targeted using Electron, and one of the key things for them is they're like, hey, let's build it using all these web Chrome kit tools, but they're like they had nothing to look at, and one of the key factors for them was when Atom went open source. They were like, they immediately were like, yay, and they could look at the source code for Atom, and they could look and pull out a lot of stuff from there. So in that spirit, their email client that they built, they also made open source because they're like they wanted the same thing. It was like, hey, Atom going open source, let us build our product. Here's our product open source so that you can use the same mechanism. Like you can pull down and take a look at how did we build this app. They used React over a lot of other frameworks, but he really didn't go into like any framework war sort of thing. It was just ended up being React worked well for their scenario. But yeah, I'll see if I can have him come speak one time because he was a really cool dude, and the presentation and the sharing of the notes was neat because a lot of us face that same thing where like, hey, we build a desktop app, and I've dabbled with the WebKit stuff, but it was kind of see what how they solve those problems. And Kent C. Dodds, he did one talking about open source managing all the projects. I think one of the most interesting takeaways for me from him was he made uh, like if you're making open source, in particular if it's Node and some of the stuff, that made the call to check how things work on Windows like almost like a social justice plea. Like you should do this, for Windows people. Like how many times do people like if something doesn't work on Windows, they're just like, oh well. It's like no, like you need to make it work on Windows.
So frustrating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was kind of like, you know what? In a world where we're trying to make sure that everybody has equal opportunity to do stuff, it is true that uh, people sometimes ignore Windows, and I blame IE because IE is a pain in the ass, and it's sort of by guilt by association. Kirsten Hunter
Yeah.
did a talk about integrating different components using APIs. She does a lot of talks related to this type of stuff, but it was pretty cool. It had to do with connecting lights and for Fitbit and some other APIs. I was running around a lot during that time, so I didn't get to see as much, but everyone said it was really cool, and the stuff I saw was cool. The most impressive thing about her presentation from my point of view is it went off without a hitch. Like when you have all these different devices communicating on different networks or trying to get all stuff there, and it just worked. I was like, when she was talking about what she did, I was like, man, there's just so many opportunities where I'd be like, oh my god, this is gonna just blow up, and it worked fine. Colin Estes was from NASA, or his company he works for. NASA hires. You know how it is. It's complicated with government and stuff, but essentially NASA. Um, he told a story where like how we have bugs, and you're like, okay, I deleted that database, oops, or I'll go back up and do stuff like that, and solve these little problems, or the server went down for 30 minutes or something, and you're like, oh my god, he he had a bug where it almost cost an astronaut his life because like they went out with a filter that it said in the computer that could go out one more time, but in reality could not go out one more time. It was a math problem. And I was like, dude, that's some serious. He's like serious consequences for your code if you're like.
Yeah.
Plus, to me, I like space, so an astronaut's cool. But Evan, you were talking, or Ed, we were talking about management problems, and he discussed that too in his presentation about how he's been wanting to do Node for quite some time, and it took many months. I'm not sure if near years, but it sounded like it potentially could with him trying to persuade, hey, we should do Node at NASA. And like he's like, I lost count of how many times I gave the same presentation about like, hey, we can do Node doing this. Hey, showing these things, showing all the benefits. And
But
it's
then
being
left
adopted now.
pad happened. He was probably like, oh, probably good.
Yeah, he didn't mention left pad, but I don't remember all the selling points for that. Again, I was running around with the stuff, but I do remember that part. He was saying how it took a long time to get them on board, and it was a slow process, which probably isn't surprising as a big organization, but they're having lots of good feedback and progress and like serious performance gains on things. So he says that the problem they face right now is like you have to persuade management, then also legacy. Oh, so legacy. It's not legacy is the wrong term, but older programmers. Like I guess I'm becoming one too, where it's like the guy's been is like it's hard to persuade the guy that, hey, you've been doing this for 35 years, but there's a better way. Like he's been doing it the same way. So that's a challenge he's facing. Lou, I did not see.
That's actually a little surprising because people who are good who have been doing something the same way for 6 years usually know exactly what the limitations are, and they're like, "No, I want a better way of doing stuff." At least a lot in my experience.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about if they've been there for that long too, they're unique individuals. Like.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think it depends on the age. A lot of people at different ages will start getting set.
Yeah. I think that was the thing. It was like trying to solve that problem. I didn't hear the solution, but I think it's an ongoing thing. And I think partially too, he's like, we're also looking to hire people. And I think that might be a part of the solution too. Lou's, I didn't see any of his presentation, so I can't help you there. I think he had stickers and a neat little picture on a website, I guess. Remember, Slava did. He did Rethink DB, one of the founders, but he was showing the title of this talk is actually wrong. He's showing off Horizon, which let's see if I can pull up the website for that. Is that it? No, that doesn't look like it. So I'll have to find it, but it's basically a whole. I almost call it be thinking. I only saw bits and pieces of it, but it looked like Rethink DB / Firebase. Like that approach. So it's like having a Firebase like thing with Rethink DB, and he demoed some things, and people thought it was really cool. But that's their new talk. So it's Horizon. I'll find the link and share it. Ben Vinegar, I didn't see at all. That someone was running around doing stuff. And I think he works for crap. I can't remember now. I'm terrible at this now. It was error captioning, honestly. I'll figure it out. And then Chris Oakman is a longtime friend from Houston who talked about open source, and his presentation was great for doing. And I saw the beginning bit about history of open source. And then I had to go running around things, but I saw many tweets afterwards with several good quotes about how to manage open source stuff. But his history of open source was actually fascinating because one of the things related to was Bill Gates discussing when software was first going off, having the open letter to hobbyists, saying, hey, if you give your stuff away for free, we won't have a software business. And then sort of like comparing that to now, you have Microsoft open sourcing, .NET, like just that small. If from our perspective, it might be a long time frame, but really it's a short time frame to have like this radical revolution that has come through. Where at the time when when .NET went open source, Chris's point was like it was kind of like like okay, no big deal, lots of people do this stuff, but really it's a radical thing. Like this open source stuff that we've been seeing and doing is a dramatic change on things. And I thought that tied very well to here you have Evan's company and GitHub and some other places are just like, here's our software, that our entire business is built off of, and that a business person without perspective would be like, no, you can't do that. This is where all our money investment and stuff went into, and really it's a unique perspective on how software developers work and how we view the world, because we're like open source all the things.
Yep.
Which is why we don't make as much money as doctors. There we go. All right, yeah, Ed sent a link. Let me see if that's probably it. Yes, that's it. That's exactly it. Let me pull this up over here.
No, that's cool. I mean, that sounds really fun, honestly. I'm upset at you for not telling me beforehand, because I would have.
Yeah, I know. My bad. I'll be doing a lot better next year, because we will be having it again next year. And we're still we got to have our talk this week about retrospective on what we want to do better and how we want to do stuff. But yeah, it was a good group of people, good fun. It's a pretty long day. but we did capture my vision all the time, which is like it's a paid conference, single track, and great speakers, and we achieved that. And I'm always impressed with the people that come over and give the talks this year and last year. So I compared that with I've been to plenty of business conferences and pitch competitions and whatever, and like developers hands down can rock their world because we're used to talking all the time and presenting and not being monotone. Developers, I would say, have high standards on what a presenter should show and be like. Like I'll have a business presenter present, and then they'll be like, "That was a good one." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, I didn't laugh once.
So we had an event down here. It was actually Brian organized our open source hackathon. That was this weekend. Yeah, Brian, do you want to talk a little bit about how that went? Because I can talk about it a little bit.
Sure. So this was our third year for the open source hackathon. Turnout was lower than the first couple of years, but it was still a good event. It seemed like everybody had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. The space was nice. I think the prizes were good because I took them out. So yeah, it went pretty well.
What was the project, or what were you working on?
So basically, the way it works is people can like pitch projects that they want to like form groups around, and it can be like new projects or existing projects, and so people can, do pull requests to other projects if they wanted to, or create a new project, or just work on anything. And some of the people would float around and help other groups, do certain things. And at the end, we judged the groups on different criteria and then pick winners.
What was the winner? Was there a winner?
So the first winner was an app called EvacuSpot, which is an app around. So in New Orleans, we have these places, these statues that people can go to. Basically, they're like markers for if there's an evacuation and you don't have a car or a way to get out. You go to these statues, and the city will pick you up from there. And so it was a way to find what the closest evacuation spot is to your current location. So that was first place. George actually came in second place with his hatred of channels.
Yeah, I had like 50 different suggestions. Like, here's some ideas everyone should do this. No one did, but then I work on my thing. Yeah, and then.
Well, if George came in second, the competition wasn't that stiff, right? I'm joking.
It was a pretty good idea. It was pretty. It's pretty creative, and I kind of want to see if he's going to continue working on it.
Yeah, I do need to work on it. Some more. Yeah. So that's a little bit of like what I thought I could talk about a little bit, because. So, anyone who hasn't heard me rant about this before, I have 4 Slack organizations, each with anywhere from 1 to like 7 chats that are active that I need to monitor at the same time, and then a lot of chats that I just would like to monitor but can't join because it takes up screen real estate. Because the Slack app doesn't really work for me because I also need GChat support and occasionally HipChat and eventually Discord and all that stuff. So I have to use Pigeon, which is not a very good client, but it is a client that works okay. So one of the things I want to do is, first of all, make a decent client with a really good plugin model, and secondly, I would like to have it so it doesn't work on the concept of channels. Rather, it'll integrate with everything else, and just all the channels will be converted to um, basically tags, and you can create and filter tags. So for me, basically what I did, and so for me this was to start this. So this was like me starting this project right now. And I chose to use Electron, which when I had to learn Electron. Turns out there's really not very much to learn, which is kind of nice. Like this is a very simple example of it, and it's just stub data. I chose to concentrate on the UX rather than on making the APIs work and so on. Since it was just me. But we kind of have this idea of all the tags each have like a separate color. So each message would be kind of tagged, and you can kind of hover over a message and have all the ones that are unrelated like kind of fade out or collapse it down and see what's going on, so on. So that's all good. It's just really, really at the very, very beginning. One of the interesting things, so like I said, I started with Electron. I'm not sure I'm 100% happy with it. I'll say this, it is super easy to get started. So there is a starter, an Electron starter thing that you can get. It's just an npm install and gives you a very simple Electron application that runs. Actually, let me see if I can open it up. It's Electron quick start, and you go npm start on that. So it's actually, I really like how they did this. It's really all set up for like, okay, this is exactly what you do, and pops this open, and you're running it. So in my case, I kind of took that and started modifying it from there. Really, all it takes is this one file. So basically, you're pulling an Electron, you're creating your browser window, blah, blah, blah. You're pointing it at your main HTML page. I thought this was a nice little thing that you could do. Open DevTools. And then the rest of it is all pretty straightforward. And then as far as what happens in your main page, I mean, that's all just regular JavaScript, except you have access to require. So the require keyword, so you can use common JS module format.
Evan was showing that, like, you can even like in your console code, like because you have that DevTools open, you can require stuff from inside there.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just that environment. Yeah. So you have access to require right here. So this environment, it was pretty nice to code in, honestly. What I'm not happy with at all. So this is like super simple app right now. Let me see. Here. This is what I'm not super happy with. Where are you? Actually, well, let's see. There's Electron, basically 90 megabytes across two processes. I'm actually not even sure why there's two processes. But, and I saw it get to like 160 at one point. I'm like, I don't have anything in here. I really don't like, the fact that it uses so much memory is one of my complaints about the Slack app to begin with. And I really don't love that part. I think it's fine for prototyping, and I'll keep going with it. But I am certainly wary of the memory usage. It bugs me. It bugs me a lot.
Yeah, I guess I always concerned about the Slack client as well. Because I'm just like, seriously, how much memory are you taking? This is ridiculous. And I guess now you're saying it's probably an Electron thing.
But I mean, I've seen people Slack. I mean, I've seen my Slack with 4 organizations get to like 800 megabytes. I've seen other people's Slacks show their Slack in 1.5 gigabytes. That's not great. It's not a good idea. So one of the things I would like is
I'll say here. I guess here, let me just check something down and give a perspective.
Wait, what?
Yeah, perspective. So because you're like, okay, 600 megs. How's that bad or whatever? I was like, to me, perspective. I have Unity open because I'm not sure Unity. The Unity editor itself opened and everything set up and doing stuff, taking the whole 160 megs.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Slack is at 600.
Yeah. And Unity is like crazy intensive. And in my case, like, I'm a 16 gigabyte laptop with an 8 gigabyte VM running. It's just not great. And then especially if I then use Atom, and Atom can easily get up to 1 gigabyte or something like that. I think it's great for prototyping. I don't know. I feel like I don't know if I would take it beyond MVP with Electron.
Well, if you want to do cross-platform desktop, there's other options,
There's other options, yeah.
But
and basically, my suspicion is what'll end up happening is it'll be a virtual DOM style system for all sorts of stuff, and it'll be fairly easy to transfer. Like one of the things I was actually thinking initially was I wanted to use Blest, which is of course that's it's a interface completely for terminals. So you work entirely within a terminal, and there's actually a React style wrapper for this, which would be cool. But then I realized, man, I'd be spending a lot of time learning like UI, like a whole new UI system. So I didn't want to bother with that.
We've gone full circle. Now we just need to code Blest and Cobalt, and we're good.
But I mean, this is what I want. I mean, I'm perfectly fine for my thing to work in the command line. I'm perfectly happy with that. But I don't know. You know, I will be looking for other UI systems eventually, or maybe Electron will get better. I will say one of the things that I got to do with it, which is kind of nice, I didn't have to use React actually. I used Virtual DOM directly, so that is very nice. It kind of gets rid of a lot of the cruft that React adds on, with like props and state and so on. You just get a very fine-grained control over that. And like, okay, that's exactly what I want. You know, when I have that little messages or something like that. Here, it's very simple. Like, there's no create component or anything like that. It's just a function that's returning virtual DOM.
Yeah.
So and then for the moment, at least at my top level, all I did was kind of created a loop that just every 60 seconds, every 12 milliseconds, just doesn't apply. It just tries to re-render the entire view. And since it's virtual DOM, it all works. There are actually, since this is the first time I've done anything like more in-depth virtual DOM, some interesting limitations kind of came up. So the way virtual DOM works is every single time that it renders, it basically generates a list of diffs. Well, if you look in what I've got going on, if I look at what's going on in here, for example, so where I'm creating a message, so I've got an on-click event, I've got mouse enter, mouse leaves. Well, every single time it runs through this code, it assigns new closures to that. And because it's assigning new closures to that, the diff, you know, there's a diff every single time. So that's something that I need to think about and figure out how exactly it should be handled. I don't want there to be a diff on those particular properties, and it's constantly binding and unbinding events. It doesn't seem to matter a tremendous amount, but it certainly doesn't feel clean. I'm actually wondering if a better solution is to listen to all events at the top level, like at the document level, because I know that that's a little bit of what React does too. But rather than listening to everything at the component at the element level, listen to everything at the top level, and then reinterpret them from there into domain events. So really, even separate domain events from the UI markup that they're tied to. So that's something I might try as well in the future. And then one thing that I showed that I thought was kind of cool. So I didn't use post CSS or anything like that because I didn't feel like figuring it out. But I did want the ability to say like, okay, this file is in the UI messages directory. It's index.js, and then I wanted to be able to include style.css that's right next to it. So when we do something like style tags, it would mean the one for that is right next in the same directory as this file. So I thought this was kind of cool. Jumping in my style, I use the call site library, which just generates a stack trace, and then walk up the stack trace by one, get the directory name of the file that called into style, and then could go ahead and get the directory from there and be able to render stuff. So I thought that was kind of fun. But yeah, going
back and forth and doing my styling like that.
I'm sorry?
I've gone back and forth doing my styling like that. Sometimes I feel like it's good, and then I got persuaded, and oh, then that's not like, because it's sort of one of those like, if as a developer, it's nice because then my styles are right next to the object and I'm working on it with or component or whatever. But the case made point was like, but the whole idea for style sheets was really that it's like a designer can manage it, and we can easily swap things out first, changing the styles. Like in the way this is set up, like swapping out the style sheet.
It actually
the entire app would be kind.
Well, you would if you want to swap out the style sheet for messages, you would go to messages style.
Yeah, but I'm saying like yeah. So I think there's merits in both ways, but I've fallen back to, you know what, I'm just gonna consolidate it all into a single one and cache it and go old school still. Old school, best school.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that was actually interesting about this, like, I was like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about bundling or anything like that at all. All similar. So it's pretty nice. I am not saying this is a great system. Like, probably, I actually think it's probably okay to just dump styles directly on elements. I just can't get over that it feels icky to me, but I can't think of a good reason why it's really all that bad if you have like a good abstraction over it.
Okay, so dumping styles on the elements, like every time I see that and I think about, like, I'd have no problem with it. It's just doing. I remember having to do that for email templates, and that was just a damn nightmare. If you're in a Scrum meeting or do whatever, and someone's like, "Oh, we need to style up this email template," run. Do not accept that work. It is bad. It is not fun.
But I mean, like, I do think, like, and I know that there's been some work on some libraries recently where people have come out with libraries that are specifically like, here's something where it allows you to style directly on elements, so you don't have to deal with CSS cascading or anything like that, and it's doing it in a sane way. And I think that's, I don't think that's an idea that can be thrown out right away, but it is. I don't know. It does bother me, but I can't say why. So.
I think the bigger problem to me for CSS is the big glaring is it's very difficult to identify what style is being used and what isn't. And so the problem comes when a long-standing project you keep on adding to the CSS and you don't remove because something might need that, you know. And I've seen different solutions for that, but nothing's been super appealing. And so what the interesting part for the styling on the elements is that you have that confidence that it's being used, you know, and so you know what can be removed.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So just really quick, so my thing that I kind of started channel, I'm calling it Jackie Channelless. That's a working project.
Jackie Channelless, I like it.
If anybody wants to help out, I'm probably going to be working for it. on it, like a little bit here and there on the weekends and at nights and so on.
Yeah, so what I've been doing for that George type stuff is, and I've had somewhat success, is I'm actually just dedicating time now in my schedule. And
Mm.
we'll see how that goes going forward. But so Monday mornings, I work with Ben, and we're working on Unity, just
Mhm.
playing around, trying to make a game. And then on Thursday afternoons, I am working, teaching Phoenix and building for building the Phoenix app. It's called, they were calling it Phoenix Lobster. So let me see. Let me pull that up so that if anybody wants to follow along, I'm gonna start. I don't know, advertising is a harsh word, but I'm gonna start sharing more of that stuff so that if people want to get in on the action, they can, because it's just the whole point. So this is with my friend Chris, and we're building. There's an app called. Oh, here, let me actually just pull all these things up. How do I share my screen instead of me just seeing my head talk? That looks good. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, this is Thursdays between 2 and 4. We've been working on this is to
So you're just jumping on Hangouts, or you actually?
yeah, just jumping on Hangouts. And it's really we're implementing this site called Lobsters that he really likes, which just seems like it's like a Reddit-like thing, but for sharing links. So we went through, we captured all the user stories and use cases and stuff, and I need to move that over to actually their README. But like our first day was that's all we did was just say, hey, this is what. Let's click through the app and see what does this thing even do. I'm gonna pull up what we were working on.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just went through here. It's like, hey, this is what these are the models we identified. Here are the user types. And here's the actions that you can perform and what should happen with them. And then we identify on certain pages what they should look like and how they should change. And it's not going to be 100% accurate. But the point was before we even started coding, we were like, what are we even building? What are we? And so we started down that path. Last week I was doing Space City JS, and Chris had to leave out of town, so we skipped that last week. But we'll begin this week, and I think we have a endpoint, and I think we have stories, and I think we're going to keep on going through that, building out the API and these actions and using tests. So if you're interested in learning Phoenix and want to just follow along, do that. I'm not uploading these to YouTube directly. I'm practicing trying to screen record, and first one I failed. The second one I semi-failed because I got Chris's audio. I just didn't get my audio. So third time's a charm. I'm also recording the ones with Ben, and we're still working on getting that perfect as well. But the idea would be sharing these as we go through and build stuff. And then tonight I work on Tuesday night. I have to figure out whether we're gonna make this public or not. I'm working on because I play World of Warcraft and we have a guild site we're redoing, and so I'm building that using Meteor and React and Redux, and that's been pretty good. And then probably gonna start pretty soon once we get all this stuff settled and we know what we're gonna do. Is for Space City JS, I wanted to do this last year, and there was not a complete buy-in by one of the organizers, and we had time crunch, and there's a bunch of other stuff going on. But this year, complete buy-in by all the organizers. We're going to make this happen. Is make software to make Space City JS easier and better. And I want to tie that in also with content, because man, throwing a conference and doing some stuff like that, there's all sorts of info out there, but I don't know, like we have a lot of lessons learned that if there was a straight up guide on how to do some of these things, it wouldn't be that bad. Like little things that you just don't even think about, like okay, we're running a conference, lanyards, like how do you even do that? Like, food, and how do you talk to sponsors, and how do you keep track of that? We did Tito for ticket sales, but then there's complications of like, well, you have print lanyards for people. When do you print it and when do you not? How do you have the T-shirts when you don't do that? When you order food, how much coffee do you need? How much food do you need? How much, all these little things that just, if we've put a bunch of notes. Even we've put notes I forgot to read the notes, and we sort of made the same mistake we did last year on some of the stuff, which is like you need like double the coffee and like a third of the food. Like we had so much leftover food because all the calculations you read online are all wrong. They're all terrible. Because it's stupid because they're just like, well, this will feed this many people. Like so, we even did low, and it was like we have way more food because people just they're not going to eat as much in the conference situation.
Developers eat different at conferences.
Yeah, like it's weird. And also, lesson learned this year: vegetarian. So we always make sure we have vegetarian options, but I've seen some other conferences do this, and I was like, this is the way to go better. It's like, man, if someone wants a vegetarian or a vegan option, get it to them and like let them say that yes, they want that, and order them a specific meal and have their name on it. Because what happens is that people take all the veggie options, and then you're left looking like a turd.
Yeah, and that's actually always pisses me off about Houston Tech Fest. How you have like they like have zero vegetarian options like for like a mile radius around there.
We have some like I mean and yeah so there's other stuff so I want to put it all together, but when we decide how we're going to do that, I'm for like making it a shared project that a bunch of people work on.
Mm-hmm.
And share as well, because if someone has a conference or a hackathon or some other event, it'd be cool to have all this stuff set up for them that's a little bit easier to get going. I know there's other things out there, but it always ends up to me the stuff I've seen. I like aggregation. I don't like multiple different distinct services. It annoys me. I'm like that's why I'm almost like anti-node on some stuff, where it's just like look, I just want one thing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but like I don't want to have like Tito and Lanyard and Mailchimp and and have to manage 12 different services and logins. I just want to log in and have one page to let us know. Also, Tito, like the revenue stuff that they show is all wrong and weird. There's a bunch of weird stuff, and so we want to correct it all, and we'll see how that goes. It'll probably be written in JavaScript because we're all JavaScript people, but yeah. So anyway, so recommendation for George is like the only way I've seen work for that type of stuff isn't hey whenever possible. Is like you got to set the date, set the time, have it every week, just like we do the brown bag, and sort of just do it.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it.
And at least find one other person that is dedicated, like you. Because then both of y'all keep each other honest.
Okay. Anybody want to be dedicated and work on Channelless with me, Jackie Channelless?
Not me. Clearly, I got a whole stack of stuff, and I don't have a Channelless problem there, George.
Ed, did you want to talk about you were talking about Xamarin or management or something like that?
Yeah, I went to the Evolve conference for 2016, and it was a really good conference, I thought. Went to the training beforehand, which was really excellent. I did the intermediate track thinking, I've done enough file new project stuff to not be stuck with all that. So it was really great. They did a lot of memory management and debugging and test writing, and it was really excellent. If you guys want to see the videos for the conference, it's just evolve.xamarin.com/videos, and they've got a link there to all the videos. Probably the highlight of the thing was Steve Wozniak at the very last session. It's just kind of his thoughts on life and development and everything else. It was really cool.
Yeah.
For some reason, we got VIP status and got to go meet him and had a dinner at a sushi place with him, and it was really cool. So that's what I've been working on.
What was like the actual content of the talks? Like anything in particular that?
The talks were mostly about the fact that Xamarin was bought by Microsoft and is now free as a platform, and they're open sourcing the platform itself. All the mono bits, of course, have been open source for a while, but all the mobile specific stuff is now open sourced, and
Do you want to just take a step back and cover what Xamarin is for anyone that doesn't
Oh
know?
yeah, Xamarin's a cross-platform mobile development for iOS, Android, Windows Phone, and now Universal Windows Platform applications. Basically, you write code in C Sharp, and then you can share a great portion of that across all the different platforms, and then you write some smaller amount, mostly UI code, for each of the platforms, and have all your business logic in shared code. Um, so it makes it a really, and they've done a lot of work to make it easier to publish to the stores and get that all approved and sent out.
Yeah, I know. I think Mark also did like some Xamarin University thing or something, training. I forgot what. And tried reaching out to him earlier today, but I couldn't get in touch with him. I would like to see get a couple people talk about this because I would like to have this and compare it also with the React Native, just because I'd like to get more mobile. So been doing a lot of startup stuff, but I always felt like the mobile stuff was underserved in all of things. It was always like an after thing.
Yeah, I would
And
recommend people go to the Xamarin University. It has a free startup type tier, and they have a lot of lightning sessions that are free and really get you started.
have you shipped a product with Xamarin yet? I know you're saying you didn't have a Mac yet, but is that on the roadmap for y'all, or what's y'all's vision for it?
Yeah, it is. The vision is more on, I think, the developer side and helping our customers than it is for management right now. So that's the longer road to hoe.
Yeah. Do y'all have a native app right now, or
We
no?
have one iOS app, yeah, that talks to our hardware. We do remote monitoring on pipelines, and we have some hardware that sits there and takes readings and then ships it up over the satellite or cell phone or cellular channels. And then, so this app talks directly to it and configures it. And you can set up analog and digital channels and how often it takes readings and how often it will try to ship them back. So that's all, and that's been done in Objective C. So,
Yeah.
so it's got zero reuse.
Yeah.
It's fit for purpose, and that's it.
And anyone who has Android devices as well.
It's just SOL.
Yeah. Does Xamarin do Apple Watches? I saw a little icon flash up. I assume that means yes.
Yes. So they do Apple Watch, Apple TV.
I can see that'd be pretty cool.
Any
It's
other
sort of like
mobile.
I can buy the story because the same way as like, okay, you want to do React Native with the idea that, okay, if we're doing React already and we have JavaScript people, hey, let's do that. If you're already doing C# stuff, this seems like an extremely good solution. Like it seems every year goes by, it seems like these solutions are more and more appealing. Because I did a PhoneGap app back in the day, and it was not a happy result in terms of it worked. Client was fine, it worked, but I was not happy with the results.
Yeah, I played with doing one back in the day too, and I had the same thing. I mean, it's just a different environment from what I'm used to, and being able to write one in something I do day in and day out is just much better.
I see Claudio came on. It's now brown break time in Brazil.
Hey, Claudia.
Have you done any Xamarin?
Well, I've been planning on doing, but I just haven't had the time. I've been watching, like, I don't know, maybe 5 hours worth of videos I found on YouTube. Some guys, doing the whole, started doing, the thing for Android, for Windows Phone, for iOS, or doing one to, be shared across all of them using Xamarin Forms. It sounds very promising. I just haven't had a chance to do it. I mean, to me, it's appealing because, like you said, it's C Sharp. I've done quite a bit of C Sharp, so that that gets my attention because every time I sing Objective C, I'm like, no, I'm not touching that crap. It's just like, no. I'll keep myself busy doing other stuff. And doing it with C Sharp, it appeals to me. I still like C Sharp as a language. I mean, I've had fun with it. So I don't know.
Speaking of C Sharp and language, how terrible I am apparently. I didn't know you could do else if in C Sharp, and I didn't know you could do it in JavaScript. I honestly never did it.
Wait, what?
I've never done it. I didn't think you could. And then I was talking to Ben this morning, and I was like, I don't think you can do that. And he was like, yeah, you can. I was like, no, language does that. I was like JavaScript doesn't have it. He was like, yeah, it does. And I looked and I was like, son of a gun.
Because it's just an else if is just a it's just an else followed by an if. Like, really any language support for that? It doesn't.
Right. It's not misspelled.
Different languages have different things. Like Ruby has an else if that's like it's a different.
Right, but that's dumb. Like, why have an actual language construct for it?
I'm just saying, hey, everybody has their different exposures and different things. I never knew. I was looking through. I was like, I don't think I've ever done it, and I don't know why. I just never came up. And then I was like, I feel incredibly stupid. This is like a beginning thing, and I'm like,
well, with strategy
little
patterns,
ASCII shrug, like, don't know.
You don't really need it.
Yeah, never needed it.
That's it.
Well, correction. I probably could have used it, but didn't know. So I wouldn't go as far as probably didn't need it. Anyway, sorry, Ed. I was interrupting you when you were talking about some Xamarin stuff.
Oh no, I'm just saying that our Objective-C developer timelines is just really long because of the amount of effort it takes to write those things. I mean, a single property takes like 12 lines of code in 3 different files. It's just like crazy.
Yeah,
they're slow crazy. Anyway. I can tell you, Ed. iOS developers are slow. Period. Full stop.
Well,
mobile development is not easy, and I think it's a comparison from web. Web, we're spoiled. Like our feedback loop and stuff we can do is so fast, and I don't know. We've been doing it for quite some time, but just like imagine desktop development. Of course, I haven't done that in a long time. Maybe it's a lot faster.
It seems
one of the things I like to Electron, right?
Well, if George is doing it, then he's reinventing React while he's doing it. So
that's true.
The good parts.
Yeah, but only with the good parts.
Yeah, the good parts of React that I like.
Yeah.
Everything else needs to be replaced.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like so we're gonna get a couple TypeScript people, and I think let's try campaign and get some Xamarin people. I would love to have. I forgot. Who's your friend's name that did the React Native, George?
Gant?
Gant, like either Gant or one of his other people in his company. I would love to have another talk with React Native, like more of a paired programming session, so like diving into it, because he showed some stuff, but it'd be cool to get more into it. It'd be nice to have these sort of comparisons of like, if we can get a demo project like Xamarin doing the same thing as React Native and take a look at both of them.
Well, we could probably do that. We just need to set a date.
Yeah. Anything else people have been thinking about? I want to say we did Aurelia. We can come revisit that.
I mean, I'd like to. I honestly, some of the stuff like Datomic and Rethink DB, I'm kind of interested in. I would love for someone to show it. And again, so preferably someone who's actually worked with it. I think that would be pretty interesting.
I'll see if I can get. I have a guy also about GraphQL. I know someone they've implemented.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day. I kind of don't get I'm not saying that no one should ever do anything that other people have covered, but it really seems like the same thing as OData, and I just want someone to tell me no, it's not. It's a completely different thing, or yeah, it is. You pretty much got it. That's kind of where I am with that.
I don't know if he'll be able to persuade that per se. That might be good, but I'd be interested to see Saul implement that stuff. I know he's been working on it, and he said they've had some good success where they've been doing it. It was like measurably awesome success that they're like, this is cool. And so it'd be good to kind of see that in action. So Xamarin, RethinkDB, GraphQL, React Native, TypeScript.
Yeah,
Some
TypeScript.
stuff. I've been doing, obviously been doing Unity stuff with Ben. Any interest besides me in some Unity
I
stuff?
like Unity stuff. I'm always interested to see it, especially. I mean, are you doing 3D Unity stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Same here, yeah. +1.
Okay, well, so I have my little demo project. We can end with that. I'll showcase this, but then because obviously since I'm doing it every Tuesday, I'll always have something that we can share. Today we started our group project, and so as we go, we can do more. Here, let me see if I can share at least what I'm doing here. Share. Is that, which one? Oh, let's share. There we go. Yeah, so we're trying to build an RTS, and so we're trying different things. And so Ben,
Well, do you want to save this for next time because we're kind of 4 minutes left?
yeah, it's not that long, dude.
Okay.
But I can show at least his teaser. Here's a teaser. And so Ben was working on terrain and camera movement and stuff, and some selection thing. I was working on like movement of the guys and so forth. So now I can like, hey guys, and it's kind of jittery. That's why we used Hangout at first, but then it was like it's hard to demo stuff and work together. But yeah, they move, and then like the wall is like they'll walk around it. Oh yeah. Look at how genius I am. And then I made my infinite army skeleton button. I'm going to keep on making more skeletons.
So as you work with Unity, because I've gotten this impression when I've worked with it a little bit, like, do you get the impression that there are concepts from it that, like, your standard developer IDEs should be taking? I don't know what, but, like, it feels like there should be something.
I'd say so far with me and Ben, a problem that has come up, well, not problem, I'm going to say that's an overstatement of it. But one thing I'm noticing a lot with this is there's an inclination to old school things. And like Ben particularly has it on stuff, and I want to be like, it's like they made an app for that. They have a thing for that. Like, because like he was doing the movement too. Like it's like don't need to do a pathing and stuff. Like they've solved this problem for us. So like, let's say I wanted to add a new 3D object, cube. Hey, come here. Oh, am I in the right thing? Oh, see, there we go. So you have this cube, and let's just make them really big or something. There we go, and make them red. Where is that? Right. Or material. Obviously, I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, hey, you can drag it on there. So if you want to make him, whatever, I'll figure it out. But like they have this navigation for you, so you can just click on things and say, you know, like navigation render or whatever. Like you can make it so like I made this wall. Like, hey, they can't walk through this wall. So maybe navigation stack. Have it there. There we go. Not walkable. And then I go bake. So instead of trying to figure out all this crazy math about how the things can path and how they cannot, they've solved all that for you. You know, like don't reinvent the wheel here. And then when I run here, I can be like, come on, guys. And they were like, oh, we can't go through this wall. So you can do really awesome, cool things that as a programmer, your first instinct is like, okay, I'm going to have to code this, and like if it's hitting this wall, it does this stuff. And with Unity, it's like, don't, like, they've got it. And same thing for the UI. Like the tutorials following, they were like drawing the UI in place, and it's like with Unity, it's like no, they have a thing for that. It's called a canvas, and like it has all the UI things that you would want to manage. So of that, I think that is what I can take away, because you're saying like what could other developer things take away from that is they have a lot of stuff already built in that I think a lot of frameworks I would like to see more, because obviously that I'm inclined to that. Like one is like, okay, Rails, that's great. Why isn't it just authentication just built in? You know, like, you know, certain things like Meteor is the same way. It's like, why can't it be? Meteor has a good authentication stuff, and then it's pluggable. Like you should have middleware that you can swap things out, but it's reasonable to expect if I'm building a web application that I'm going to want authentication and authorization and like all that jazz. And so I would like to see more of that type thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right,
And
we're at the hour.
we're done, right? 1:31. All right, so I think what I'll do is I have a list of topics, and I'll get with you, George. We'll see if we can get some guest speakers, and we'll keep them down to 30 minutes, and we'll keep
Sure.
trucking.
All right.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.
It was fun. Talk to you later.
Come on, everyone.
Right.